Am I the a-hole for telling my stepson I'm not paying for his college? Plus update. I'm a 44-year-old female, married with a 16-year-old stepson. My husband was never married to my stepson's mom. He was with her for 6 weeks and then found out she was married. He ended it, but found out she had a son 2 years later when she filed for child support after her divorce was finalized. One paternity test later, my husband had a 2-year-old. They have joint custody. When my stepson was 8, he came into our house one day and announced his mom told him that we'd have to pay for his college. I didn't think anything of it at the time because he was a young kid and was always saying things like this, so we left it off. Recently, my stepson texted us saying he's looking at college and we'd have to pay it. So, my husband and I never combined our finances. We have separate bank accounts and we share the bills 50-50. But I make more money than he does. My husband told his son that his finances didn't stretch to paying for college, so that was out of the question. My stepson then started sending texts saying that if his dad couldn't pay, then I, his stepmom, would have to pay because I'm financially obligated to pay any expenses his dad couldn't pay. This went on for over a week, even after I told him flat out no, and this is out of the question. Now he's threatening to never talk to my husband again unless we pay. I was raised by a single dad and didn't get a free ride to college myself. The level of entitlement is getting kind of stifling. But is that even acceptable to demand that your stepmom pays for your college? Note, my husband has been paying his court-obligated child support religiously for years. This is part of the reason he can't afford a college, because there's really not much left after that. Edit. Thank you everyone for the input. I really want this to be about the college tuition part because I have no idea how kids do things these days. My daughter at 25 never acted like this. We did tell him no when he was 8, and his mom told us over a dozen times she has no interest in co-parenting. When I moved in with his dad 10 years ago, we sat him down and discussed it with him. I will never forget his answer and even remember his face when he said it. Oh good, then you can help pay mommy's bills too. When he was 12, she tried to say that he could decide which parent to live with and he doesn't want to go to his dad's house anymore. This is not the case in our state, so she couldn't get anywhere with this. But when we sat him down and spoke with him, he denied it all. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not a-hole. Lol. You do not have to pay for your stepson's or your own son's college at all, let alone because you're financially obligated to pay any expenses dad can't pay. That's not a thing. Not a-hole. You are not required to pay because you never promised to cover his education expenses. Stepson is able to obtain loans and handle it. He is a 16-year-old kid. I remember being an idiot at that age. His mom is the true a-hole, promising him that someone else will take care of things for him. The way adults manipulate children over stuff like this is mind-blowing to me. Not the a-hole. You're not legally obligated to pay for him. It doesn't look like your husband is able to or required to either. To be honest, stepson's mother is setting him up. OP's husband pays child support because stepson deserves some financial stability. Unfortunately, his mother has brainwashed stepson into thinking college tuition is an obligation. Husband should sit down with his son and ask why the son feels tuition is an obligation. It is important that significant other remains calm and unemotional. Hopefully, stepson and dad can come to a realization that satisfies both of them. That's what I thought too. The biological mother was trying to poison the stepson against both parents. Agreed. That's exactly what she was doing since he was 8 years old. It's unfortunate for the boy who wants to get further education, but where there isn't the money to do so, not much can be done without him taking on college loans. His mother is a piece of work because she should have been trying to put something aside for his college since she's the one actively encouraging him, not the a-hole. Now for the update. My husband and I discussed this further, and the amount of time some people put into their responses is near amazing. It also seems to be fair that I share what we decided on. I'm responding to this text message I got from my stepson around noon today. I'm blocking my stepson's name and my husband's personal health information for privacy purposes. Him, you're a rotten C-word, and I hope you lose all your money. I hope my dad divorces you. You're a witch. Me, stepson, your dad and I have discussed this further. You are very aware that he and I have consulted attorneys over the years and know what we are required to do and what we are not required to do. Our answer remains the same. However, if you would like to discuss in a reasonable manner your options for higher education and future plans, we are here as always. You are also very aware that we have had to pay a substantial amount of medical bills due to your father's sickness. Your father's issues are such and are just not going to go away. However, you will not treat me nor your father, or really anyone like that ever again. You are grounded for the next month. No cell phone. If you would like to continue to be disrespectful, we can extend that time frame. Your choice. Note, I have not received a response yet, and my husband hasn't turned his phone off yet either, just to be fair. Next story. Am I the a-hole for leaving my niece's wedding reception early and taking my gift back? I'm 45 male and I have a niece who is 22 and just got married last weekend. The family is blowing up with drama right now because of what I and my wife did. I must preface this by saying that my family can be pushovers. They really all hate conflict and will definitely let themselves be run over by someone else in order to not cause a fight. I am not this way. The wedding was on Saturday, Catholic ceremony in a church that was at 3:30 p.m. The reception area was at a brewery about 15 minutes from the church. The reception was set to start at 5. Maybe this was stupid on the venue people, but they wouldn't open the bar or bring around the appetizers until the bride and groom arrived. Service ended around 4:30 and everyone was told to go to the reception. The wedding party had a limo to take them, and a separate limo took the parents, grandparents, and siblings. The couple is young and decided against family in the wedding party, lol. It was 4 sorority sisters and fraternity brothers on each side. My wife and I drove. We got to the venue around 4:50 with the first family limo arriving around that time. By 5, I'd say all 150 guests were there, but no bride and groom. The wedding coordinator was getting mad as it's now 5:45 and no wedding party. We are all just standing around with no food or drinks. Someone was able to get a hold of the maid of honor around this point, and apparently, the bride and groom told the limo driver to stop at a liquor store and then drive around on the highway for an hour so the wedding party could get trashed. At around 6, the maid of honor said they should be arriving in the next 20 minutes. My wife and I looked at each other and said we are out. We thought it was horribly disrespectful of them to do that to all their guests. I told my brother, father of the bride, that we were leaving and taking the gift with us. He tried to plead by saying, "They're just kids, let them have fun." But I was having none of it. A few days after, I got an apology text from my niece, followed by an ask for the gift again. I said that I felt very disrespected and I didn't want to give a gift anymore. She snapped and called me an a-hole. Not the a-hole. While I would have probably left a gift, I don't blame you for taking it. What they did was incredibly selfish and disrespectful. I think the fact that she immediately took back her apology and cursed you out when you didn't give her the gift speaks volumes about her character. That wasn't an apology. I'm assuming the gift was a check? It was, and precisely. She was apologizing until she got around to asking for the gift. I'm fascinated by this. How did she ask for the gift? Like, I'm trying to picture in my head how that conversation would go, and I just can't do it. I am so sorry. Our behavior was thoughtless and inconsiderate. So, are you gonna give me the money? Crazy. Not the a-hole. Wedding guests are guests and shouldn't be treated so poorly by the wedding organizers, bride and groom. People took time out of their day and spent money to be there, all for the bride and groom to not even show up, meaning nobody could eat or drink and just had to stand there awkwardly while the bride and groom got trashed. Personally, they're the a-holes for me. Yes, that's exactly what happened. I used to work weddings at a country club, and when people did this, it was so awful for everyone else. We had to follow their demands and deny people food and drink, and we hated those couples. Not a-hole. I gotta love the excuse because they are kids. Dude, they're literally old enough to marry. They're old enough to know you don't keep guests waiting an hour plus. If you can't respect those closest to you, then you can buzz off. What the couple did was flat out wrong because they wanted to get drunk. Also, the gift wasn't in the couple's custody. You can learn some manners before I spend a dime on you. The only reason Denise even apologized was because she wanted a gift. Finally, this couple will be divorced within 2 years. They sound immature, have no sense of responsibility nor manners. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not going to a baby shower 3 months after my son's funeral? My husband's family has been torn apart for my inability to attend a sister's baby shower. For some context, this was a baby shower for my husband's brother's wife. The brother was his best friend that his mom raised since he was 8. My husband's family has also known her since she was a child as well. I had recently lost my baby after a long fight in the NICU. After many surgeries and months in the NICU, my son lost his battle. While we were fighting in the NICU, my sister found out she was pregnant and could no longer stand to see my son because she couldn't take the sight of him being so small and hooked up to all the medical instruments and such. I 100% respected that because it was hard for me too. Fast forward to his funeral, and they could hardly stay because she was too emotional and used her pregnancy as an excuse to leave. Again, didn't blame them at all because it was a lot. A month later, I get an invitation to her baby shower and I honestly went full ugly crying. I didn't resent her for it and her pregnancy, but anything baby related was just unbearable at a time. I was still in full-blown grief, hardly a functioning human, and was holding on by a string. My husband and family were so worried about me at a time, and it seemed so hurtful to just send that in the mail. So the day came and my mother-in-law called and asked in the sweetest way if I was coming and if she needed to pick me up. I said no, and that my heart just couldn't handle it, and that I didn't want to end up crying and make the day about me. She said okay, and that she understood. When she got to the shower, she told her that I wouldn't be coming and why. Later that day, I got a bunch of texts calling me selfish, and that I couldn't just get over myself for one day and suck it up, among other harsh words. Although I admit I was protecting myself, I also knew the headspace I was in at a time and what I could handle like an adult. Baby showers were not one. Her family continued to bash me along after the baby was born, and when I first met her at Christmas, it was so hostile and awkward. A few months after that first meeting, her family openly mocked my son's death and my long grief journey. At one family gathering, I was cutting up my food and my husband's brother said, "Why are you cutting that up? It's not like you have a kid to feed." I froze and left crying. After that, my husband's family was torn. Either they supported me or her. I feel so bad for being the rift that caused this. But am I the a-hole here? Now for the comments. Not a-hole. You are grieving, and there is no timeline. You get to decide when you're ready for life and all its hurdles. And this. At one gathering, I was cutting up my food, and my husband's brother said, "Why are you cutting that up? It's not like you have a kid to feed." It's one of the cruelest things I have ever heard, and I'm old. Thank you. It was shocking. I guess I left out that I did have my 6-year-old with me too. Did your husband hear him say that and defend you? Because that is so absolutely uncalled for. I feel like my husband would go ballistic. Yeah, my cousin called trying to convince me to go to her son's wedding a month after I lost my youngest son. I told her I wasn't ready. I didn't want to ruin it by breaking down and making it about me and my loss. She said it would be good for me to get out and be around family, etc., etc., etc. Like, no, it really freaking wouldn't. I'm supposed to sit and be overjoyed your youngest son got married and has a future and a bride and potential children, while my youngest will never get that? I could hardly bear being around my own grandkids because it hurts so much to remember my son at all those ages. 1 month. Not a-hole, and shame on anyone that treats you like that. Your grief is early and raw, and there is no timeline. Take care of yourself and take the time you need to be able to do any activity. It's a horrible, painful journey that you sadly will walk alone, with your significant other as well, because those people have no freaking idea how lucky they truly are. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my stepson he shouldn't have been surprised when his sister didn't invite him to her get-together? Hello. I have been married to my wife for 8 years. She has 2 kids. 16-year-old twins who I'll call Jane and John from a previous relationship. When the kids first moved in, it was a bit tense. They weren't fond of me and tried to avoid me. Over time, Jane warmed up to me and 2 years ago has started referring me as Dad. John, however, has not warmed up to me, and I'm fine with that. I would love to have a closer relationship though. It's a bit of a struggle, since if I don't do or give what he wants, it's because I'm punishing him for not calling me Dad. If I try to talk or offer him something, it's because I'm trying to replace his father. I wish he'd see that's not the case, but I know that'll take some time. Jane calling me Dad has strained the twins' relationship. John does not refer to Jane as his twin sister now, either as his half-sister or step-sister. When it comes to birthdays, their mother splits it into days, so both of them have a day for themselves, and John does not want Jane around on his day. I know this hurts Jane. They weren't close as siblings, but they still had a relationship. Recently, Jane hosted a small get-together in our backyard. Some of the people invited also know John, but not as close with him as they are with Jane. John found out, and after it ended, argued with Jane about it. John was not invited because he has never accepted any invites his sister has given him. And when asks him questions, he has started to ignore her. Jane told him as such. John argued that some invited were his friends, so he should have been invited, even though he never accepted the other time his friends were there. So I told John that he shouldn't have been surprised he wasn't invited with how he has acted in the past, and it made him more upset. I think I overstepped the line, but my wife and Jane are on my side. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. I think John wants it both ways. That's not how relationships work. Either it puts in the time and effort and reaps the rewards, or he's a little a-hole and gets to miss out. That's what my younger brother did. He expected everyone to put effort into maintaining a relationship with him, while he could come and go as he wanted, cusses out for expecting him to follow through with commitments and generally be a prick. For example, on my 18th birthday, he no-showed for dinner, called me a witch for being upset, and then took like 40% of my cake upstairs to eat alone in his room. Everyone decided he wasn't worth the effort and stopped reaching out. He only realized he'd driven everyone away like 6 years later when he tried to show up at my place, drunk, looking for a place to crash. We hadn't spoken in 3 years. I had moved twice within the city, gotten engaged, and then moved 2,500 kilometers away. Our brother had a kid, our auntie died, and he had no clue. This is what John's future will look like, because I promise no one will want to stick with him. Not a-hole. He's not upset about missing his sister's birthday because they're close. He's upset about missing a party because their common friends are also going to be there. He can't have it both ways. He has to actually have a relationship with her for her to want him around on her day. Question: has he ever gotten therapy? You don't mention their dad at all. Is he a deadbeat or has he passed away? You might even need family therapy to navigate her considering you dad and him not. He evidently has very strong feelings about this. Both twins are in therapy. We have done family therapy. As for the twins' father, he left when my wife was pregnant with them.